In this video, I'm going to show you how to build program hierarchies in Structure Builder. Structure Builder is accessed from the Tools menu in LabVIEW. When we open Structure Builder, we get just a single item in the hierarchy, a screen which is not assigned to any VI. This gives us a couple of errors in the error box on the right-hand side. We can either assign an existing VI as this top-level screen or create one like this. And we get some instructions and a new VI. But I don't want to waste a minute or two creating a nice screen for you. Instead, I'll just use one I created earlier. And I can open it like this. And I can go to the diagram. And as you can see, it is just a bunch of controls with no other code. Now, buttons like these are normally latching buttons, and Structure Builder requires that each latching button triggers either an action or the opening of a screen. Structure Builder allows you to build a hierarchy of screens, loops, and actions, and to configure each of them. The first step here is to create an item under the top-level screen. As you build the hierarchy, the errors shown on the right change. When the hierarchy is complete and properly configured, there will be no errors left, and then you can press the Build button to build your structure. At this point, I should explain that there are 5 types of item in the hierarchy, each with a different icon. First, there are incomplete screens, and the top-level screen here is an example of one. Structure Builder will create code inside incomplete screens. There is a useful video in this series called Working with Incomplete Screens, which goes into more detail. The top-level item in the hierarchy is always an incomplete screen. Then there are loops. There are 6 types of loop, and often you can use any of these types according to personal preference. You can find out more about them in Structure Builder's instruction manual. Loops are used to execute actions when events occur, for example, when a button is pressed. The next type of item is a complete screen. Like this one. These can be screen VIs that you already have, or screens from the Structure Builder's library. The fourth type of item is called an action not yet coded, like this one. Here you specify what triggers the execution of the action. Each screen needs one action which is tied to a button which closes the screen, which means it is set to at end exit button. If there are more than one loop in the screen, then one will have the exit button, but each of the other loops will have an action set to at end. When you build the structure, you can tell Structure Builder to add a hashtag comment for each action not yet coded, so that you can see where to add your low-level code. The fifth and final type of item is an action VI, like this one. This can be a VI that you already have, or an action from Structure Builder's library. The beep action VI from the library can be used if the action is to occur at regular intervals, so that when you build and run your structure, you can tell that that part of the code is being executed at the right times. Later, you can replace this VI with the correct code that you need. So we've talked about the 5 types of item in the hierarchy. Now let's build a simple hierarchy. The most common arrangement is that loops come under incomplete screens, and then under loops we get actions and other screens. Now I'm going to call this loop my process loop, and we'll link this action to the Start Process button. So this loop is going to handle the three sort of process buttons. And then we just need to add another item. And we'll link this to the pause button. We'll add another one. And we're selecting value change event all the time because we're looking for button presses that could happen at any stage. And we're going to link this to the stop button. Now I'm going to create another loop in my top level screen and call it user interface loop. We might make this one an event structure. And within that, we'll put a complete screen, which is a configuration screen template. And we're going to call it settings and link it to the settings button. And I'm going to create another one, another complete screen, this time the about screen, which I've got in the library there, which I can modify to my tastes. Link that to the about button. Finally, I'm going to create an action which is when I press the exit button. So I'll link it to the exit button and call it exit. Now this is showing me that there's one further error, which is that the process loop needs an action to perform when it closes. And that's something I forgot to do, so that's fine. I can just add an item there, call it end of process, and this is going to be at end. So when the process loop completes, which is when the exit button is pressed, it closes off the process in whatever way it needs to. Now there are two things I'd like to draw your attention to here. Firstly, our two complete screens have no items underneath them in the hierarchy. That's okay, that's what Structure Builder expects. If I try and put something underneath them, Structure Builder will give me an error. There we are, so I'll just delete that again. And the other thing is that in the top right hand corner you'll see that the box that shows the name of the structure, first of all there's no name there, but also it's been turned orange because the changes that I made are not saved. So if we were to save this structure, that box would turn grey again. Now when we have built a hierarchy like this, we might decide that some rearrangement is necessary. For example, we might want to put the settings screen in the process loop. And there are two ways of doing that. We can cut it, go to the process loop and paste it. And there it is, and we've got no errors on the right hand side. Later in our low level code, if we do this, we would want to grey out the settings button in the top level screen when the process is started. But the other way to do it is simply to drag the item. And there we go, I've dragged it back again into the user interface loop. Now I'll save this structure now. There we go. And now the box in the top right says there's no unsaved changes. Now I've shown how you can move a single item. I moved the settings screen. But you can move or copy whole sections of hierarchies or even an entire hierarchy. So if I right click on the top level screen here and say copy, and then go and open another completely different hierarchy, we could now put that anywhere we like. So let's say we put it in here, and it's appeared towards the bottom here, the item called top level screen. There's my process loop, start process, pause process, stop process. and there's my settings and about screen. So I've copied an entire hierarchy into another hierarchy, but it has given me a problem here. The errors on the right tells me that Structure Builder doesn't know what's going to open this top level screen because I haven't supplied a linked button. So there's a certain amount of rearrangement I'd need to do, or reconfiguring when I move things around like this, but it can be done. And I can also take that hierarchy that I just inserted and put it somewhere totally different, like that. So I can move items with all their what's called child items, move them around to the place that I want them to be. I'll just reopen the structure that I created just now. Finally, a note about using VIs multiple times in your hierarchy. You can use complete screens and action VIs multiple times with no problems. With incomplete screens, though, we need to use a little trick. Incomplete screens obviously have items underneath them in the hierarchy. If an incomplete screen occurs twice with a hierarchy underneath it each time, the build process will put these lower level items in place twice. The solution to this problem is to refer to the VI as an incomplete screen in one location in the hierarchy, but to refer to it as a complete screen in all other locations in the hierarchy. That completes our video about building hierarchies. Be sure to watch the other videos in this series, and I wish you every success in using Structure Builder for your LabVIEW projects.